Hello and welcome to Pockenrop. This week's video was originally intended to be focused on sophomore releases, bands that had dodged second album syndrome and released a fantastic second album. However, this morning the news broke that at the age of 59, Andy Rourke, the bassist of the Smiths, had very sadly passed away from pancreatic cancer. So today's video can only be about the Smiths. The Smiths were a band formed in the 1980s consisting of Morrissey, Johnny Marr, Andy Rourke on bass, and Mike Joyce on drums. The songs were written by Morrissey and Marr, and they have had a lasting influence on music and are one of the greatest bands of all time. Before I go into the rest of the video, I would just remind you to subscribe if you've not already done so, to click the thumbs up to like the video and the bell to receive notifications of future content. I'm going to start by ranking 6 Smiths albums. Now, the Smiths released 4 studio albums and 2 very highly regarded compilations in the UK. That for me constitutes the 6 albums I'm going to rank. I'm not including Louder Than Bombs, as that is a reworking for the American market of The World Won't Listen, plus a few extra tracks and some drawn from the Hatful of Hollow album. And I'm not including the live album rank. So at number 6, I have placed the debut album, The Smiths. Now, this might get a few flames, but it's an album I've always struggled to enjoy. The production on it, I think, maybe lets the songs down somewhat. It's still a good record, but it's the one Smiths album that I don't own at the moment. I may revisit it, but just for me, it's that little bit too downbeat. At number 5, I have placed Hatful of Hollow, the first compilation. So this shows some of the tracks on the Smiths that were done on things like the BBC One sessions for Peel or David Jensen. And they sound so much better. For instance, the great track, What Difference Does It Make, sounds so much better on Hatful of Hollow than it does on the Smiths. However, it's a compilation, and that's basically what probably tumbles it down the list that little bit more. At number 4, the other compilation, The World Won't Listen. This comes from the latter half of the Smiths' successful period. It contains things like Panic and Ask, a collection of singles. It's also got The Boy with the Thorn in His Side, which appears on another album anyway. And it's a really good compilation. I do actually prefer Louder Than Bombs, mainly because it includes Sheila Take a Bow and its B-side, Is It Really So Strange. But The World Won't Listen was the album released in the UK. At number 3, I've placed their second album, which is Meat Is Murder. This is their sole UK number 1 studio album. Contains That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, which I think is an absolutely great song. It also has things like Barbarism Begins at Home. We've also got things like The Headmaster Ritual and the title track, Meat Is Murder, which does make me uncomfortable as a meat eater. But the lyrics alone, they are incredibly well thought through and designed lyrics by Morrissey. Number 2, I have placed their final album, Strange Ways, Here We Come. And there was still so much greatness that could have been produced by the Smiths, but relationship between Morrissey and Marr, which was the pivotal relationship in the band, was starting to fracture. Johnny Marr wanted to do other things and Morrissey wasn't happy about that. Wrote the song I Won't Share You, which is all about refusing to allow Johnny Marr to go and do different things and write with other people. But yet we've still got Girlfriend in a Coma and Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before and Paint a Vulgar Picture. And there are some who think that this is better than what I put at number 1. And on a certain day, I might be inclined to agree. But what I've placed at number 1 is I think their finest release, which is The Queen Is Dead from 1986. From the opening track, the title track, The Queen Is Dead, through to the closing track, Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others, I don't think there's anything actually wrong with this album. Now, there's slightly downbeat stuff like I Know It's Over. It's counterpointed by the jollity in things like Cemetery Gates and Vicar in a Tutu. And then right in the middle of the record is a track that I think is absolutely stunning. I'm not going to mention it because I'm going to follow on from my 6 album ranking to my tracks in my years of the Smiths. I'm going to do my top 20, and starting at number 20 with Handsome Devil from the Hatful of Hollow record. This was never put onto a studio album and is one of the earliest tracks that the band recorded, and for me sets the template of the clever Morrissey lyrics and jangly guitar work of Johnny Marr. Number 19, I have placed the aforementioned Cemetery Gates from The Queen Is Dead. Keats and Yeats being referenced, but you don't win because Wilde's on my side. It's a great track, Cemetery Gates. It's in this track where Morrissey answers his critics about plagiarism of lyrics. It's a great song, Cemetery Gates. Number 18, A Rush and a Push and The Land That We Stand On Is Ours. The opening track from Strange Ways, Here We Come. Number 17, I have placed The Boy with the Thorn in His Side. This was released as a single. I think it made the top 20, and then nearly 6 months later it made it onto the album in a slightly different version on The Queen Is Dead. At number 16, I have placed What Difference Does It Make? Another great piece of Johnny Marr's intricate guitar work, and included on their debut, The Smiths. At number 15, a song that it's taken me years to really grow to like, and it's Paint a Vulgar Picture. All about the death of a music artist and how the record company jump on that and repackage, reissue everything by that artist to capitalise on that death, and how distasteful that can be. I don't know who in particular is in his mind when he wrote the lyrics, but Paint a Vulgar Picture is a real diatribe against the music industry. Really strong song. Sticking with a diatribe about a particular element of the music industry, at number 14 I placed Panic, which was a top 10 single and was directed particularly at Steve Wright and his choice of the music that he was playing, I believe, after a disaster had taken place, and how Morrissey thought that it was singularly wrong-headed to have played what Steve Wright actually played on the radio. Panic at number 14. At number 13, another top single, Sheila Take a Bow. Sheila Take a Bow is one of my favourite Smith singles, and was one of the songs that actually drew me into them. When I went to university, I had a friend who said, the Smiths aren't all miserable. They're much better than that, mate. So this was early 90s, and one of the songs that drew me in was Sheila Take a Bow. And I vaguely remember hearing it in shops when I was an early teenager. Sheila Take a Bow is probably more than anything else responsible for the fact that I love the Smiths now. At number 12, I have placed Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before. Now, this should have been released as a single, as I think maybe the second or third single from the final album, and it was shelved. The reason being is just at the point it was going to be released, there's a line in this song that says it would make a shy poor Buddhist reflect and plan a mass murder. And this was the time of Hungerford, and it was felt distasteful to release this as a single. Number 11, the aforementioned Rush Home Ruffians. Dark subject matter, but brilliant playing, and one of those that shows off Andy Rourke's bass playing so well. At number 10, I've placed the B-side to Sheila Take a Bow. It's Is It Really So Strange? It was this song that nearly made me include Louder Than Bombs in my album ranking that you just watched, because it's a top tenner for me. I think Is It Really So Strange is one of the greatest late era Smith singles. I think Is It Really So Strange is an example of just how good they were, that they could toss this away onto a B-side when it could have stood as a single on its own. Terrific song. At number 9, one of their least charting singles, and it's That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore from Meat Is Murder. This was released as a single after the album, but because of that, it wasn't a success. But I think it's the strongest song on Meat Is Murder, and I really enjoy The Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. I love the fact it fades out and then comes back in again. Terrific song. And number 8, their last single, Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me. This is painful in terms of the aching that goes into these lyrics, but it kicks off with a good, I think it's 2 minutes worth of keyboard work and atmosphere. It's a great song, Last Night I Dreamt Somebody Loved Me. At number 7, I started something that I couldn't finish, which is from Strange Ways Here We Come. A great single, the one that was actually released instead of Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before. At number 6, from The Queen Is Dead, Frankly Mr. Shankly. Just a perfect song that demonstrates that the Smiths weren't miserable. This is great fun lyrics. Frankly Mr. Shankly, since you ask, you are a flatulent pain in the ass. I mean, it's just superb lyrics from Morrissey on that one. At number 5, the single that preceded Strange Ways Here We Come, Girlfriend in a Coma. This is just a 2-minute perfect pop song. It's just so enjoyable, and yet what a dark subject matter. Do you really think she'll pull through? No, I don't want to see her. And it's just, it's indescribably good. And number 4, an aborted single. Had they released this, I'm sure they would have had a hit. It's You Just Haven't Earned It Yet, Baby. This is a terrific song, and I still don't know why it was pulled. There was something apparently that they weren't happy about. It was then covered brilliantly as well by Kirsty MacColl, and it's the great Lost Smiths single. At number 3, and all 3 of these are in my top 100 songs of all time, the opening track, The Queen Is Dead. Wow. This is Mike Joyce's drumming at its finest. It just powers the song, and then you've got Andy Rourke's bass playing underneath it. And given the fact that they were a 3-piece instrumentally, drums, bass and guitar, and Johnny Marr is handling jangly guitar duties, it meant that the bass playing needed to have an incredible harmonic counterpoint to it, and Andy Rourke provided that. The plaudits that are being given to him on the occasion of his death are all well deserved, because he was an amazing bass player. One of the bass players that's probably influenced me more than almost any other. And terrific bass playing and drumming on The Queen Is Dead, and amazing Morrissey lyrics. I am not Republican, but the lyrics, like things like, "Oh, I broke into the palace with a sponge and a rusty spanner. She said, I know you and you cannot sing. I said, that's nothing, you should hear me play piano." The cheek to write a line with that kind of rhyme in it and get away with it. Brilliant. Queen Is Dead, number 3. And number 2, if Sheila Take a Bow hooked me in, this song kept me there, and it's This Charming Man. Their second single, and the guitar part on this is what truly hooked me in and proved to me that the Smiths weren't just a one-song wonder. This Charming Man, oh man, this finally made the top 10 when it was re-released to support the Best One compilation, which was my introduction point, Best One. This Charming Man is just beautiful, and it is definitely in my top 100. I think it's in my top 30, if not 20. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's beaten only by my number 1 pick, which is There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. What a song. Right at the heart of the Queen Is Dead album. It's the track I was referring to earlier, and when I put the radio on this morning, they started playing There Is a Light That Never Goes Out before they announced the story. And I immediately thought, oh, one of the Smiths had died. Because this is probably the perfect tribute song to any member of the Smiths who's died. To Die By Your Side would be a heavenly way to die. It's brilliant, it's in my top 20, I believe, and the light will never go out on the Smiths because the music that they gave us in the 80s was phenomenal. I genuinely think that they are one of the very last bands that could do both brilliant albums and brilliant singles. Most bands have one or other, but the Smiths had both. And There Is a Light That Never Goes Out was finally released as a single to promote the Best of Two compilation, and I believe it stands as the last ever Smiths single release. It's absolutely fantastic. So that concludes my Tracks of My Years and my ranking of the Smiths albums. Let me know in the comments below what your favourite Smiths tracks are or how you might rank those 6 records. I will be back in a week with another video, but all that remains to say is subscribe, like, click the bell. Rest in peace, Andy Rourke, and I'll see you in a week.